All right, what's going on, guys? This is Taylor checking in for an Ask Me Anything session. That's right, guys. No questions are off limits. The easy ones and the hard ones. Let's do a quick sound check here in the free or the essentials room, excuse me, and then a quick sound check here on the YouTubes. All right, should be good to go. As far as the market here, and if y'all got any questions, start to fire away. So that's kind of a tough read. Old mama market here. It's bouncing where it should. It's the first test of the daily 50 since pretty much since the party started back in May. So a pretty big level of support there. Not too sure if they're going to hold it or not. The signals are kind of neutral. Daily chart is neutral, 2 hour, 1 hour, 30 minute. So we'll see what's up here at support. And then a short going to McDonald's, which I think will pay us nicely if the market can take out that daily 50. So that's what we're rocking with for now. Couple notable names from today. Anybody who had U.S. Steel calls over the weekend is having a pretty good Monday. Up a casual 32%. And then everything else is just kind of getting a pretty good bounce today. AMD's up 2 and change. I actually think AMD looks like a good short. Nvidia's up. Netflix is up. So they're bouncing it. We'll see what they can do with it. Tony, what do I think of Monster? Well, my wife wants me to stop drinking them. That's what I know. It's perfect, man. Doesn't mean the trade works, but if your next 100 trades look like Monster, I think you're coming out victorious. So Big 3 Squeeze says it's an A+ setup. So what does that do? Right, that says you have your buy signal, you have your squeeze, and you got a good entry. Inside that bull squeeze, price is still within that buy zone. So what does that do for us? The A+ setup does the same thing that it did back here, which is just set the stage for what could be a really nice move. That's all that does, though, just set the stage. So we were talking about this earlier. That's kind of like a Ferrari. Visually, it's beautiful. Like, structure is lined up, momentum is lined up. We got squeezes, we got signals. It's really pretty to look at. If there's no transmission, there's no engine inside that Ferrari, it's just a pretty car that's going nowhere. So the trigger here, right, the race fuel to get that daily squeeze going is all these lower time frames. So we look up at the labels on the top right. Right, the labels for the buy and the sell signals. And what we're trying to do here, Tony, and the rest of you, is take that perfect daily squeeze where the stage is set. And then the timing component comes from something like this. Run that daily squeeze through the X-ray machine. All right, pop open the hood. The 4-hour chart, the 4-hour chart also prints a buy signal. The 2-hour chart, the 1 hour, the 30, and the 15, they're all printing buy signals as well. So what does that tell you? All right, the total package here says the stage is set in the daily squeeze for a push higher. That's what that label tells us. And what these little guys tell us, green on the 4-hour down to the 15-minute, is that inside of that daily squeeze, momentum, structure, moving average crosses, stacked DMAs, everything leaning in the favor of the bulls. So inside that daily squeeze at the moment, everything's aligned on the same page. Everything's shaping up where the path of least resistance should be to the upside. And in the mastery, that's what we call the template. You find one squeeze, which is your focus. In this case, you focus on the daily squeeze. You make sure the daily squeeze fits the bill. So that label has to be green. Does it fit the rest of the template? Because what I've learned going back and studying as many squeezes as possible, it looks the same every single time. Back here, before and during that big push, lower time frames looked exactly the same on the indicator. So as far as pattern recognition through all the pretty colors here, it's the same thing every single time. You will never see a daily squeeze fire long if the 2-hour chart has a sell signal, the 1 hour, the 30-minute. Just based on the function of the indicator, it can't happen. So reverse engineering the squeeze taught me that the daily chart or the squeeze on that one given time frame, it's a stage setter. To trigger the confirmation, the fuse being lit, that's everything inside that squeeze. So for comparison, BP is an A+ daily squeeze. So the stage is perfectly set for a huge push. I don't want to buy calls today. And then sometime next week, I'm catching that push. If I buy it today, then I'm thinking if not today or tomorrow, a few days from now, I should be making some money here. The timing comes from that multi-time frame alignment. So right now, this is just a Ferrari. It's beautiful to look at, but there's no engine, there's no steering wheel, there's no transmission. It's not going anywhere yet. The 4-hour chart is neutral. The 2-hour chart is neutral. The 1 hour and the 30-minute print the sell signal. So I can promise y'all, we are never going to see a daily squeeze fire long when the signals on the lower time frames look like that. Again, given the function of the indicator, it's just not possible. So now we're at the point where, hey, that's a nice daily squeeze. The fuse is not being lit quite yet. Now, if anything, that 1 hour and that 30-minute sell signal, that could just develop into a bigger problem. Takes out the 200, takes out the 50. Now you bought calls here thinking the squeeze fires long, and it actually looks like it wants to fire short. We avoid that by waiting for something, again, like Monster. All right, daily squeeze, you ready to go? Daily squeeze says, yup. 4-hour chart, you ready to go? Ready to go. 2-hour chart, 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, all reporting for duty. Yeah, Strider, let's take a look at First Solar. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous, I say. I'm a huge car nut, so this one I call a Lamborghini. But yeah, that's the template. All right, so here's what I believe in firmly. I'm a firm believer if your next 100 swing trades look like this, all you have to do is manage risk, and you're going to come out on top. That's all trading is just a probabilities game. So if you can narrow down your trades to that moment in time, you've got a daily squeeze of the buy signal coiled up, right? A+ setup. Every single time frame inside that daily squeeze, momentum is bullish, structure is bullish, right? Everything from top to bottom is on the same page here directionally. Now, I got no clue if this one works. But again, if your next 100 trades look like that, that's it, guys. In my opinion, for those of you in the mastery, once I'm done with the class this weekend, that's all we're doing. If we're getting long for a swing trade, it has to look like that on the daily chart. with the alignment from our lower time frames. If we're getting long for a day trade on the hourly chart, we need the same thing. Pop open the hood to the hourly chart. I need to see the 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute also bullish. So yeah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. So JH, good question. My mindset is the more the merrier. So JH is asking, how many lower time frames need buy signals to trigger the entry? Again, nothing better than First Solar. 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, everything's checking off that box. So that's a lot better, of course, than if the only lower time frame buy signal you have is, say, on the 5-minute. It could get the party going, but 3, 4, 5 of them is a lot better than just one of them. So I don't necessarily have a set rule, but yeah, the more the merrier. And then to up the ante a little bit, if those lower time frames have a buy signal and a squeeze, at that point I'm drooling. So let's see for Monster here. So these are the squeeze labels. And right now, the only squeeze of the buy signal is that daily squeeze. But imagine if that 4-hour buy signal was also in a squeeze. The 2-hour had a buy signal and a squeeze. Right, the 1 hour, the 30-minute. Then you're really locked and loaded. Not only is everything bullish, it's bullish inside of a squeeze. So my favorite example of this, Netflix from back in May. On that day right there, so the 17th of May, the weekly chart, the 3-day chart, the 2-day chart, the daily, the 4-hour, the 2-hour, the 1 hour, I think even the 30-minute and the 15-minute, they all had a squeeze and a buy signal. 15-minute fires, then comes the 30, then comes the 1 hour. They get the daily squeeze going, that gets a weekly squeeze going. Netflix goes 330 to 450. Like really big time stuff. LRCX was the same thing. Back there in early May. So when you see all of that on the labels, those are the big ones. Those are the big ones. Yeah, Rizzo, I think Chevron's really solid. So you know what's really cool? Because until the class is done on Saturday, things are pretty hectic for me. Just as far as documents and webinar slides. So admittedly, I'm not in the frame of mind right now where I've tuned out every other distraction except trading. So come next week, that'll be the case. But I'm not on the mic in the mastery all day, or really even in the chat all day right now. You guys and gals are trading the stuff you should be trading. Every time someone's like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" I gotta like it. It's really cool. So Arizona Bob, for me, I keep the extended hours off. It's a personal choice, but I always keep them off. If you take my brother Chandler, for example, Chandler does it with not sure if it's still the case, but back in the day, he used to keep his extended hours on. So matter of preference. All right, couple questions here from YouTube. Nairu, how is NTNX? It's close to perfect, but not quite perfect. If it was perfect, that label would be green. So in my system, the reason it's not perfect, you have a daily squeeze. You've got it right where we want it, right near that 21 EMA. Momentum is under the 0 line. So right now, that's what's keeping the big three indicator from printing a daily buy signal. They have to get momentum back above that zero line. If they can get that momentum line back above zero, then there's a really good chance that squeeze fires long. So one of those things where you could wait for that signal to print. All right, we got the green bar in the daily chart. It's an A+ setup. We got momentum. We're ready to rock. You could wait until it turns into that, or you could try to quote unquote front run that signal by finding your entry on a lower time frame. So in plain English, the daily squeeze might not be A+ just yet. If I go down to the 2-hour chart, that's a 2-minute. Not going to do us any good. If I go to the 2-hour chart, well, the 2-hour squeeze is an A+ setup. It's printing a buy signal and it's at the buy zone. The 1-hour squeeze it's a little bit above the buy zone, so not quite A+. But point being, you have something to work with as far as, hey, this should push higher and it should happen right now on the 1-hour chart and the 2-hour. So that can kind of get you into the daily squeeze a little early. But you do want to see them shift momentum here pretty quickly. A couple of examples of where they didn't do that and the repercussions. AMD is one of them. Notice how momentum peaked back in late May. So there's your momentum peak. Price continues to put in new highs. All right, so price is going higher. What's momentum doing? It's going lower. Breaks the zero line in June. Now AMD is sitting here in that squeeze. Right, tries to go higher, can't do it. Tries to break out, can't do it. Because they never corrected that problem in momentum. You can try to catch that push early by working off the lower time frames, but you do want to see that positive cross. Another example is AI. Here's your momentum high. You get a new high in the price about a month later. Right. Price doing what? Going higher. Momentum steadily going lower. Then momentum breaks under the zero line. They try to get it going, can't do it. All right. No wind at your back. Seeing that in a lot of names right now. NVIDIA. Apple's actually the biggest example. Momentum tapped out in Apple in, let's call it the first week of July. Price just keeps pushing. So when you find that daily squeeze and momentum is under the zero line, if they can't quickly fix that problem, it's not so much a direct suggestion the squeeze will turn around and fire short. It's more so a suggestion this thing's not going to fire long. So you might be caught up in some nasty chop. So that's what I'm seeing there on NTX. So Howard, the big three squeeze works the same on the futures. The biggest thing that I saw coming into today was the 4-hour bear squeeze on the ES. They're trying to clean things up a bit, though. They canceled the 4-hour sell signal. So right now in the futures, they have a 1-hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute buy signal. They have neutral squeezes, so just a squeeze. No buy or sell signal on the monthly, the 4-hour, and the 2-hour. And they have a bull squeeze, so a squeeze and a buy signal on the 30-minute chart. which might have just fired. Right in front of our own eyes. Come on now. Yeah, 30-minute squeeze of the buy signal. So it all works away. It all works the same way on the futures. Let's take a quick look at Lulu. I mean, I already know I'm going to like it. Let's see. So what's the scoreboard telling us here? Best possible score is 5. The Bulls have 4 points and the Bears have 1. So what that tells me is this is really close to being what I would consider the perfect long. Right? At that point, it would be an A+ setup. In this case, the one thing missing, right, the 1 point the Bulls don't have, is momentum above that 0 line. So if they can get that to cross this week, then it's official. But you'll notice every other time frame is pretty much fully aligned. So the weekly squeeze is an A+ setup. The squeeze on the 3-day chart is an A+ setup. Squeeze on the 4-hour and the 2-hour are also A+ setups. So there's an example of, all right, I need one more thing on my daily chart, but I can take that 2-hour and that 4-hour squeeze, and that becomes my entry. And then from there, you look for the final confirmation of they finally get that back above 0. Let's take a look at what we got, BMCL. I'm not sure if you mean Colgate or crude, so we'll do both. Ooh, yuck. So Colgate would be an A+ for a short. A squeeze, a sell signal at the entry zone. So what does that do, guys? That sets the stage for what could be a big flush. Where's my timing confirmation? Where's my trigger? Every lower time frame is also printing a sell signal. And now we can up the ante a bit. They're not just printing sell signals on lower time frames. They're printing squeezes as well. So now I have a 1-hour squeeze with a sell signal, nested inside of a 2-hour squeeze with a sell signal, inside of a 4-hour squeeze with a sell signal, inside of a daily chart with the same thing, inside of a 2-day chart with the same thing. I have no idea if this one works, but if my next 100 shorts look like that, I'm going to come out on top. So that looks ideal for a short. And then if you were asking about crude oil, the other CL, probably a name to buy and a pullback to the 21 EMA. All right, back to the essentials room. So, Mark, if the label is blue, that means we just have a squeeze. There's no buy signal. There's no sell signal. We're just squeezing. So, crude oil on the monthly chart. Just a squeeze. Right, what I want to trade is a squeeze with a buy signal or a sell signal inside of it. So that would be something like back here, where on the squeeze histogram, we had the blue dot and the red arrow. I've got the marriage of the two most important things. The squeeze gives me compression. And on my indicator, it's a modified version of compression. Sell signal tells me everything's aligned here for that squeeze to fire short. So now I can call for two things. I can call for direction. And then if we follow the same template, I'm going to pop open the hood here to the monthly chart. what's going on in the weekly, or what's going on in the daily. If I can find that alignment from the top down, then I can call for direction and timing. Neutral squeeze, just a good squeeze. Zen25, was there a time when Big 3 squeeze and TTM squeeze had opposing takes? Awesome question. What I've noticed is there will be differences in whether or not you actually get a squeeze registering. Right, so you have the compression from the original squeeze, which basically means how tight is the squeeze. Then you have the 3 levels of compression from the Squeeze Pro. So the original, the low compression, the high compression. Mine is what I think is like the sweet spot between all those other kinds of squeezes. Kind of wedged right into the sweet spot. So there's differences in the squeeze actually printing, where this will pick it up a little bit earlier, but not as quickly as the low compression. And then opposites in what the momentum tells us. The original thinking with the TTM squeeze is that if the histogram is above 0, so the bars are light blue, that squeeze should fire to the upside. And then that's how I started my squeeze trading. The difficulty there is that, and mind you guys, the squeeze totally changed my life. So I love it deeply. But what the original squeeze lacks, I think, is what does it do a great job of? It does a great job of saying, hey, this thing's gearing up for a move. What I don't think it does a good enough job of doing along with that is telling us where and when. All right, which direction should the squeeze fire, and when should the squeeze fire? So if we throw the original squeeze on the chart, and to preface all this, guys, my style is, I want to buy Zillow on that day right there. I get long, squeeze fires long. I don't want to sit there for 2, 3, 4+ weeks. So on the original squeeze here, you had a daily squeeze in Mara, and for about a month, the histogram was under the 0 line. So the thinking there is the squeeze should fire short. Yellow bars, red bars, well, that never happened. And then the thinking is, hey, the histogram went positive. We got light blue bars. The squeeze should fire long. It did, but that was 3.5 weeks later. So modifying the compression settings and then incorporating the buy and the sell signals, when I get the green arrow down there, then and only then can I call for direction and timing. So the big 3 squeeze would not have you getting long or short until the morning of June 20th. So that's what I noticed is kind of the major difference. They both do a good job of saying, hey, this thing's getting ready. What the big 3 squeeze does, I think, a much better job of saying is, hey, this is what you should get ready for. And I'll tell you when you should get ready for it. And then all the other goodies. I got the label telling me whether or not it's a perfect setup. I've got my targets for my longs, targets for my shorts, and then we got the scoreboard. That's a really good question, though. I think anytime you guys see an indicator that's built on an indicator that already existed, those are the questions you should ask. It's like movies. Sometimes the original is good enough. You just kind of leave it alone. They try to do the remake, and it's just kind of, you kind of wish they didn't. So those are good questions to ask. Bert, WBA. Yes, that would be an A plus for a short. So this label says, hey guys and gals, the stage is set for a big flush lower because you have a squeeze. Inside of that squeeze, you have a sell signal printing. And right now, if you take an entry, you can work a good risk versus reward. I can't short it down here. So that says, hey, I'm gearing up for what could be a big flush. Pop open the hood, 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour sell signal. Check the squeeze labels. That 2 hour and that 1 hour have a sell signal and a squeeze. I can call for direction, I can call for timing. Risk versus reward wise, if the 1 hour squeeze fires short, that's probably going to trigger the 2 hour. That's probably going to trigger the daily. We have a 2-day squeeze, we have a 3-day squeeze. You can catch a nice flush. If it doesn't work, price goes back above the 21 EMA, take the trade off. Or before, even if price is still below that 21 EMA, if that label's no longer red, take the trade off. The loss shouldn't hurt. If it works, it should be a nice one. So that ability to call for direction and timing, if you can do that accurately, what that allows you to do is trade in a fashion where you can be wrong 60% of the time, still make some nice money. I think we're trading setups that can lead to a better win rate, but calling for direction and calling for timing, losses are small, the wins are bigger. Right? The recipe. Yeah, Rami, in terms of building a label out specifically for risk versus reward, let me think for a second. By default, that is kind of built into the A plus label. So if we could take an entry near the entry zone, and then manage risk accordingly, from there it's a good risk versus reward. But it would be cool to have a label that actually says, hey, if you short this right now, maybe it measures it in terms of average true range moves. So something where, it'll measure the current distance from the price to the 21 EMA in terms of average true range moves. So right now it'd be, call it half. And then if we say the target is typically 3 ATR to the downside, it'd be something like, reward here is 2 ATR, risk is half. Let me, that might be doable. Risk versus reward ratio label based on distance from target to 21 EMA. We'll call the exit level. Reward label based on distance from target to 21 EMA, exit level, measured in ATR. Let me see what I can do with that tonight. Based on my little coding experience, that's probably doable though. So Bobby, the everything you see on the charts is part of the new Big 3 squeeze bundle. So the original signals and new squeeze, the new labels, the squeeze radar over here, the scans. If you're a mastery member, you do get a pretty nice discount on all of that. Jim wants to look at NU and A net. We can do that. I can go to the 2-hour chart and say, hey, here's a nice day trade. Potentially. Got a squeeze and a buy signal. The problem on the daily chart, though, is that divergence. Right? You saw it in Apple, NVIDIA, the semiconductors, the Qs, the S&Ps. When did momentum top out? Late May. With momentum on the decline, price goes on to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll call it 6 more highs. Price is going higher. It's not supported by momentum. So if they can't correct that problem, this daily squeeze could play out just like AMD. It tries, and it's closer to firing short now. Play out like Apple. Got to squeeze. They try to break it out. Never cross momentum, and down she goes. So the label's recognizing that. That label being gray, the A plus setup, right, it's recognizing the fact that momentum right now is not aligned for a push higher. So this current daily squeeze, from both a timing and a direction standpoint, is not like that daily squeeze. Fresh cross of momentum, fresh buy signal, off she goes. And then let me see, A net. So on the scoreboard here, on the daily chart, the Bulls have 4 points and the Bears have 0. So at first glance, we can quickly determine that getting short is probably not the best idea. But why don't the Bulls have 5 points? All right, what's missing? Momentum is bullish. Structure is bullish. They have a buy signal. No squeeze. You got to have the squeeze to have the A plus setup. Now, where you do have some nice squeezes is on the weekly chart and then on your 3-day chart. So those are shaping up, I think, really, really nicely. So Wall Street, in terms of adding volume, would you want that to be something that says, would it be like an above average and below average kind of thing? If you guys want labels for, label goes green if momentum, if volume's above average, something like that, I actually have that label. It didn't make the final cut for the Big 3 squeeze, but we could easily put that on the indicator page if that is what y'all are looking for. Looks like Harry's taking a look here at some ollie. That's what I used to do back in my skateboard days. In that ollie. Very nice setup. All right, now in this case, Bulls have 4 points, Bears have 0. Yeah, so why is this not an A plus setup? We have the squeeze. We have momentum. We have structure. We have a buy signal. I'm a little bit too late for the entry. If I'm going to work a good risk reward, I got to catch it as close to that 21 EMA as possible. If I can buy it right here, I'm going to take that trade-off right here. So draw a rectangle around my risk. Here's my risk box. Now if the squeeze fires, you get that push, it's going to be a bigger box. So I'm a little bit late here. A little bit late. Solid though. Really, really solid. All right, let me check the S&Ps real quick. Kind of stuck between a 21 and a 50. Which makes it an interesting spot. If they break the 50, it should dump. If they start cranking out a couple closes above that 21, Bulls might have something. Bulls might have something. Nick, so the ones that I shared for the day trading earlier, I've got to get those on the indicator page. So those two aren't on the page just yet. We'll try to get those up there end of day. Yeah, couple kick flips. Oh man, I used to love skateboarding. I came in third place at Skater's Edge contest in Taunton, Mass. I'm sure a few of you have heard of it. Often referred to as the mecca of local skateboarding. So Marco, the white line is the 21 EMA. That big blue fella is the 50 SMA. And then somewhere down yonder, the red one is the 200 SMA. So 21 EMA, 50 SMA, 200 SMA. All right, guys, let me start from the beginning here. A lot of questions, which is a good thing. AJ, who does my hair? Believe it or not, his name is Ollie. That's kind of funny. My man Ollie. That's funny. John, do I see any A+ setups for swing trades today? Let's go to the scans. That's how we find them. So on a daily chart, here's some A+ setups: Chevron, Danaher, BP, CVS, Monster, Hilton, Agilent, and then a few more: CCJ, MRO, Zillow. CCJ, Zillow Dillo, BP. First Solar is kind of gonzo at this point, and then Monster. Now, for a lot of names on that scan, the one thing that has to be cautious right now is that the S&Ps, the Qs, the small caps, they don't look like Monster. They don't look like BP. They don't look like First Solar. They don't look anything like that. When they do, these kinds of trades work really, really well. When you have that wind at your back. We had the wind at our back starting back in May. All throughout May, all throughout June, most of July. Got the whole market giving you a big thumbs up. So it's a probabilities game. Trading these kinds of setups for a long in the right market, I think it's the best thing going. When the S&Ps go flatline, we transition from trend to chop, or worse, we just transition from trend to chop to chop to puke. There's always going to be something out there on the scans that fits the bill. It's just no longer the same probabilities game. To me, the best possible situation is that you have a market environment where the fish are pretty much jumping in the boat. You can pretty much wake up, get long blindfolded, and make some nice cash. Like waiting until the market is like that, and then during that stretch, trading nothing but the best setups possible. It's the perfect storm. You lose that wind at your back, it can become a lot more of a needle in the haystack kind of game. S&Ps don't look good. The Qs don't look good. God forbid they actually break down and trade lower. And you're trying to find a few names that can buck the trend. What I would say is if you're trying to find a name that can buck the trend, ideally you're trying to look for a theme. Versus, hey, here's just some random one-hit wonder, and this thing's trying to take on the whole world on its own. So, for example, you run the scans. If everything on the bull scan is an energy, that speaks volumes. Now it's not just one stock. but rather you have an entire pocket of the market that might go on and buck the trend. All right, when I see Zillow on the scan results here, I don't really see a theme. I'm not seeing other ARC stocks, whatever group you would put Zillow in. Not seeing a huge theme here. We got one bank, but I'm not seeing a bunch of financials. We've got a healthcare name, but I'm not seeing a bunch of healthcare names. The quote unquote theme right now, as far as hey, these all look pretty decent, is really the energy stocks. It's not healthcare. Actually, healthcare doesn't look too bad. I shouldn't say that about healthcare. Financials, that's nothing to gawk over. So something to look for. If there's a central theme, I think it's easier to trade a whole group against the grain than just one random stock trying to be a hero. Yeah. So Arizona Bob, I'm sorry. For other futures, I keep the extended hours on. My bad. I misread your question earlier. For stocks, I keep it off. For futures, you want to keep it on. Then you can see the full length of the future session. Sorry about that. I misread. Rick, what is my primary day? What is my primary trading time frame? The daily? Yeah. Yep. Definitely the daily chart. I'll trade anything. Just it's a matter of where are the signals. But yeah, my favorite is the daily. Reason being, it's just kind of what I cut my teeth on. Coming up as a young buck. Mark, would I still take an AMD short? It depends if the indicator told me I could. I need permission. Indicator says yes. It's up 3%, but nothing's improved today. You are still in a squeeze with the sell signal with negative momentum. If anything, today you're getting a better entry. I can short it right here. Take my exit on a move back above the 21 EMA. And if the squeeze fires short, got some room. Yeah, Jason, good question. So one thing I'm planning on doing, if not in September and October, in my mastery group is, I guess we'll call it a small account challenge. Something where I'll start with. Let me check the votes here. Let's check the votes live, shall we? But I think everybody's voted for 2,500 being the starting balance. All right, let's all pray nothing terrible comes up on my Twitter. All right. So let's see. Where are the votes? Yeah, almost 50% vote for 2.5 to 25,000. So that would be something I would do in my mastery. Now, realistically, what does that change as far as the day-to-day operations of the mastery now? It would just mean I would actually post the position sizing along with the entry and the exit alert. Setups wouldn't change. It'd just be, hey, I'm taking AMD for a short, and I'm risking 5% of my account. Where now the alerts are just, hey, I'm shorting AMD. Here's the alert on one contract. You go figure out your correct position sizing. But that would all be in the mastery. We've got a couple things cooking up for the mastery that, in my humble opinion, will make it the place to be. So stay tuned for all that. All right, looks like Mears has got you helped out on that one. So, Don, the arrows on the chart do not differ from the arrows on the squeeze. It's just that this is, so here's our sell signal. And what the arrow down here says is, hey, you have a sell signal inside of a squeeze. So over here we have buy signals, but there's no green arrow down here. We have buy signals, we don't have a squeeze. So I call it a bull squeeze or a bear squeeze. Bull squeeze would be BP. Squeeze and an active buy signal. Yeah, Bobby, for now, Monster has the green light. But it's a different context. I'm not going to look at Monster the same way I would look at Monster back in May, June, July. That has nothing to do with Monster, right? It's valid. It's legit. It's got the fixins. The difference right now is the market itself. All I know for sure is if we break the 50 and that squeeze continues to fire short, I don't want to be long anything. Yeah, there might be a few names at work, but I don't want to play that numbers game. And if the S&Ps are back above 450 and they're rebuilding, we're getting lower time frame buy signals, I don't think I want to be short anything. So my personal holdup right now is I'm waiting for the confirmation. Are we going to break short? Are we going to rebuild? And then I can take that direction and then trade a bit more aggressively. Monster checks out. Market falls apart. That trade doesn't have as good of a chance of working. McDonald's checks out for a short. S&Ps are rebuilding back above 450. Chances are McDonald's doesn't fire a short. So just be really, really mindful of that. You want your signal here first. And then you crank up the scans, then you build out the watch list, then you take it from there. Wow, NVIDIA's having itself a day, huh? Jeez. Have yourself a day there, NVIDIA. Now, here's some context. The stock's up 6.5%. Has that fixed all of the problems? Well, the scoreboard on the hourly chart is 1-to-1. So despite a 6.5% pop, the bulls don't have the edge on the hourly. All right, what about the 2-hour chart? Scoreboard says the bears actually have the edge still. They're up 2 points to 1. What about the 4-hour chart? Who's got the edge on the 4-hour chart? The stock's up 6.5%. The bulls have nothing to stand on. They haven't fixed a single thing on the 4-hour chart today. What have they done? They got deeply oversold. They're pulling back to the falling 4-hour 21. They haven't fixed structure. They haven't canceled out the sell signal. They haven't shifted momentum. Doesn't mean from here they can't do that. But you got to put it in its proper light. Nice move, though, for sure. Very nice move. With that being said, what about the S&Ps? The bears, they still have an edge on the daily chart. They're up 2-to-1. How about the 4-hour? The S&Ps aren't up like NVIDIA, but they're up a little bit. On the 4-hour chart, they have addressed nothing. Bulls have 0 points. The bears have 4. How about the 1-hour chart? All right. All right, Bulls get a little bit of edge here. They're up 3-1. So from here, that scoreboard has to continue to improve. Bulls take control on the 2-hour chart. Bulls take control on the 4-hour. They regain control of the daily chart. Then they got something. If the bounce can't fix things, then it's just a bounce. 'Tis just a bounce. Yeah, Tony, that's already the case right now. If I post a trade in the options room, I also post it in our mastery. Though, admittedly, guys, all of the focus over the last couple of weeks has been on slides and getting ready for the class and the webinars. So as fun as all that is, I'm looking forward to next week. And then I'm hitting you hard. I'm hitting you real hard. And yeah, Andrew, good point. Yeah, good point. Yep. So Nick, make sure on your settings. So if you go to edit study on the big three squeeze, make sure the up signal and the down signal, those boxes should all be selected. So for whatever reason, when I send out the flexible grid, something about the default settings, it changes. It just changes a few things. Turns off the arrows. I think that's all it does, but it does do that. So just make sure the up signal and the down signal are checked off. So rafting, as far as Amazon goes here, one of the few names in tech where the bulls are still in good standing. They own the weekly chart, they own the daily chart, the 4-hour, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, the 5-minute. So Amazon looks really solid here. The bigger problem, so to say, right now Amazon, though it looks good, not the same context as back here in May, June, July. What's going on back there in May, June, July? It's not just Amazon setting up, it's the queues. They fired a daily squeeze, they fired a weekly squeeze, and then from there off went all of technology. Now the queues are a little bit more suspect. So if this just continues to just kind of roll over, doesn't mean Amazon can't trade higher, doesn't mean it has to pull back. It just means it's going to have a tougher time trading into higher prices. With that being said, though, I think you recognize the fact that, hey, the queues are kind of getting slapped around here, but Amazon, everything still checks out. That Google over here, that still checks out. So if you can actually get some progress from the bulls in the QQQ, then I think these are the first two names you're going to look for. They look better than Tesla, than Microsoft, than Apple. It's one thing for them to hold up against the grain. It's another thing for them to actually go on to trade higher without that wind at their back. But I think those would be the first two you would try to latch on to. And rafting, the voodoo lines aren't something that I use on a daily basis. But from like a weekend preparation kind of standpoint, I'll throw them on the charts every now and then and just get a general sense of what the key levels I should look at are. Admittedly, I kind of cheat because I just I'll listen to Henry and David sessions, and they usually kind of spill the beans So, Dave, this scan will pick up ETFs as well. Excuse me. So one that I had earlier on the hourly chart, I believe. No, that was a short. Yeah, I'm thinking of a short that I saw. But earlier, XLF came up in the hourly bear scan. It's still sitting there too. So the scans will pick up anything that's optionable. That's actually a pretty good looking hourly squeeze, if I do say so myself. But yeah, this will pick up anything that's optionable, meaning we can trade options on it. So stocks, futures, and the ETFs, the exchange traded funds. That's a fair point though, Dave. That's actually a really fair point. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. I never thought of that before. Hmm. The ETFs don't have big market caps, so yeah, good point. Good point. All right, so then the solution would be build a watch list that has all the ETFs that you like to focus on, and then pull up the same scan. Get rid of the market cap requirement, and then you could say scan in that personal watch list. That is one way to work around it. Good point though. Market cap parameters. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Rafting is AMAT an earnings trade? Well, my whole thing with an earnings trade is there has to be a setup there, which would not be the case here. Not only that, earnings is in a few days. So to me, the ideal earnings trade would be, here's Netflix back in May. You've got earnings coming up in a few weeks, and you have the perfect setup. So if I can find that, 2, 3, 4 weeks out from earnings, then I'm all about it. When we're a few days out, and the setup itself is just not aligned for a huge push, at that point I kind of just step aside and wait till earnings are all done. Awesome questions, guys. Awesome questions. Corey, do I think Ford will break higher? See what happens when you kill the muscle cars? This is what you get, guys. You get rid of all those big honking V8s. This is what they do to you. Do I see anything here in Ford? No. Nope. Bears have 3 points and the Bulls have 0. So I don't see too much edge there trying to get long for now. All right, guys, I'm going to do a few more questions here off YouTube. Yeah, Wall Street. Let me see what I can do with that. Volume label above average of all. Yeah, we can definitely do that for you guys. Mohammed, here's a really good question. Yeah, really good question. What's the smallest time frame where the big three squeeze is accurate? Awesome question. For me personally, I don't trade lower than a 5-minute. But I think what you'll find with most indicators and most setups, the lower the time frame, the greater the chance for more noise. Like, it all kind of sets up in a great fashion, and then it just quickly fizzles out and the signals turn on and off. Doesn't mean you can't catch them. But, there's a 5-minute squeeze of the buy signal. It never quite got going. There's a 5-minute squeeze of the sell signal. Never quite got going. That 5-minute squeeze worked. But yeah, I think as a general statement, you get down to a 5-minute, a 3-minute, a 2-minute, a 1-minute. Even though it's my own indicator, I think even this indicator, it can still be a little bit noisy. So for me, that's why I like to focus on the 5-minute and up. But that is a really, really good question. Pierre, will we be going lower tomorrow? If I knew for sure, my friend, I'd be pulling up the Sunday dinner this weekend in a new Lambo. Admittedly, I don't know what to make of the market right now. I can point towards the problems that say we can definitely go lower. All right, momentum broke, the squeeze fired short. What's making today such a tough call? We're above the 50 SMA, we're below the 21 EMA. So we're kind of sandwiched here between these two moving averages. And then the signals, they're not giving me too much to work with. I got to respect the 4-hour sell signal. So as far as a daily chart and lower, the big boy on the playground right now is the 4-hour. But then the 2 hour is neutral, the 1 hour is neutral, the 30-minute is neutral. If we're above the daily 21 with a bunch of buy signals, then it becomes an easier long. If we're below the daily 50, pumping out a bunch of sell signals, then it becomes a much easier short. This is kind of like that awkward in between where we don't know if we're going to break long, we don't know if we're going to break short, and the indicator is not giving us too much to work with as far as strong sense of what the outcome's going to be. So for me, it's a tough call here. It's the first test of the daily 50 since the rally started, which, you would generally think is a decent chance of holding. But then there are some problems here. Mainly problems in momentum. Makes it a tricky, tricky spot. But all right, guys, I'm going to let you go here. I got to take the gold room through the close in about a little bit less than an hour. So I'm going to try to sneak a quick dog walk in and then get back to work with those good people. But as always, guys and gals, thank you for your time. Hope you found it helpful. And if you enjoyed this, I did too. So maybe we can make these Ask Me Anything sessions a bit more of a scheduled kind of event. I had a good time. But all right, everyone, have a great day. Trade smart this week, and I'll talk to you all soon. Adios.